So we're talking about the carrier. If you saw the first part of this video, you know that Donald Trump pulled some strings to keep those jobs there, but was it the right thing to do? It's the right thing to do in the sense that I say to signal that you're at least willing to fight to keep American jobs here. But of course, he didn't really fight. He just offered them stuff. Like he didn't leverage like, hey, you're not going to get any of those. Hey, well, here's what Bernie Sanders says. Bernie Sanders' carrier just showed corporations how to beat Donald Trump. We need a president who can stand up to big corporations, not fold to their demands. So here's what Bernie says. He says United Technologies is not going broke. Last year, it made a profit of $7.6 billion and received more than $6 billion in defense contracts. It has also received more than $50 million from the Export-Import Bank and a very generous tax breaks. This is a big company. In 2014, United Technologies gave its former chief executive, Luis Chenevert, a golden parachute worth more than $172 million. The guy got a golden parachute. One guy, $172 million. Half the country in America is poor. Do you see what there might be a problem with our system? Do you see there might be a systemic problem? One guy made $172 million in 1 year. Half our country is poor. Do you see how there might be a problem with our system? And then that guy, I'm going to guarantee you, pays a lower tax rate than the people who work for him.
Well, if he has less money, there's less to trickle down. If there's less urine falling on your head, there's just you're not going to get as wet.
I heard a good quote. I read somebody. I didn't make this up. Someone else did that. Say that money is like shit. When it's in a big pile, it smells. When you spread it around, it makes things grow.
Wow, I like that. It's beautiful. I'm going to add that to my vows.
So that this doesn't help spread or make things grow. Giving $172 million to one guy. Who does he think he is? Tiger Woods? Last year, the company's highest paid executives made more than $50 million. The firm also spent $12 billion to inflate its stock price instead of using that money to invest in new plants and workers. So what Trump gave them was $7 million in tax breaks. Do you think these guys, $7 million, what the F? That's chump change to these guys. Their one guy got $172 million last year. I don't understand. If United Technologies or any other company wants to keep, this is what Bernie Sanders is saying, if they want to keep outsourcing decent paying American jobs, those companies must pay an outsourcing tax equal to the amount of money they expect to save by moving factories to Mexico. That's Bernie Sanders' plan. That's his way to fix this weird system that we have. That, hey, if you want to outsource, and then people would say, yeah, but then they won't be able to be competitive and they'll go out of business. This company's making billions of dollars still by paying people a decent middle-class wage, $30 an hour. A lot of those jobs are $30 an hour jobs, middle-class jobs. And they're still able to make billions of dollars. So I don't know if they would go out of business. They just wouldn't be able to make an extra $500 million maybe. So that's that whole thing of what I said about corporations. Corporations, they're not there to make as much profit while safeguarding the planet and giving a decent wage to their workers. They're just there to maximize profits. F the planet, F the workers, F everything. So this is Bernie's idea on how to fix this. We have a systemic problem. Okay, he says they should not receive federal contracts. I agree. If we're going to spend our federal tax dollars on creating a product here in America, whatever it is, federal tax, why don't we pay people, make those companies pay a decent middle class? We're spending our tax dollars. I'm sure we'd like to build up our middle class with our own goddamn tax dollars. So I don't understand why every federal contract doesn't just do that right out. Like you have to make it in America and you have to use American labor and you have to pay decent middle class wages. I know why. Because the government's been bought. That's right. I forgot. Barack Obama is a wolf in sheep's clothing, and he is doing the bidding of the military-industrial complex, Wall Street, big oil, big pharma, and Silicon Valley. I forgot. That's why we have the whole system's corrupt. And Bernie Sanders has these ideas, but what the real problem is, you got to get rid of those Democrats. And Bernie Sanders we need someone, if not Bernie, to start a third party, because the Democrats, we're going to do other videos, they're stuck. They're stuck they're stuck addicted to money. They're addicted to Wall Street money, and they can't get off it. So that's why Nancy Pelosi and nobody, that's why they're all broken. That's why anyway. So Bernie Sanders goes on more. And they must not be allowed to reward their executives with stock options. He's talking about companies that outsource with stock options, bonuses, or golden parachutes for outsourcing jobs to low-wage countries. I will soon be introducing the Outsourcing Prevention Act, which will address exactly that. He said, so now this is what Trump said during the campaign. He said that if he were president, Carrier wouldn't be leaving in the first place. He said that Carrier would pay a 35% tax on imports to the United States. In fact, Trump said, I will call the head of Carrier and I will say, I hope you enjoy your new building. I hope you enjoy Mexico. Here's the story, folks. Every single air conditioner unit that you build and send across our border, you're going to pay a 35% tax on that unit. Well, they're not going to because of NAFTA. And Trump, actually, that's not what he did. That's not what Trump did. He didn't tell them he didn't threaten them. What he did was he gave them stuff. He didn't threaten them. He didn't bully them. He gave them a tax break. So here's what 538 says, why Trump's Carrier deal isn't the way to save jobs. $7 million in tax breaks and other incentives in return for keeping jobs in Indiana and investing $16 million in its Indianapolis plant. That's what Trump gave to Carrier. That package probably wasn't the primary driver of Carrier's decision. The company told state officials that it would save $65 million by moving to Mexico. But experts have nonetheless argued that it sets a troubling precedent. There is little, after all, to stop other companies from threatening to move jobs to win similar concessions, and such deals offer ample opportunity for corruption and abuse as politicians decide which companies deserve help and which deserve saving. So Trump is picking winners and losers right now, which is the thing that they're not supposed to do. And you know how I know that? Because their vice presidential nominee from 2008 said so. Sarah Palin, look what she said. Republicans oppose this, remember? We support competition on a level playing field, remember? Because we know special interest crony capitalism is one big fail. This is what she said about that deal. She wasn't saying this about something else. She was saying this about Carrier. The Carrier employees who stood to lose their jobs reportedly earned $30 an hour in wages and benefits, about 10 times as much as their Mexican counterparts. I guess that's $3 an hour they work for?
Yes, sir. The math checks out.
I'm not a math surgeon, but I think that's what it is. The biggest reason Americans are worried about disappearing manufacturing jobs is that they generally pay well. There isn't much point in saving manufacturing jobs by slashing wages until they are competitive with those in Mexico and China. In other words, a combination of bribes and threats may have saved Carrier's workers' jobs, and still only some of them, but it isn't going to bring back the glory days of American manufacturing. Nothing will. This is from 538. Nothing will. The forces that have driven the decline in U.S. factory employment, globalization, and automation are here to stay. So there you go. So what's wrong with the way Trump did this is that he just went out and gave a tax break to someone. You didn't go out and go, hey, he didn't do what he said he was going to do, slap a 35% tariff on every, he didn't do that. What he did was, I'll give you more money. He did the opposite. So he threatened to make them pay taxes, and what he actually did was the exact opposite. He let them pay less taxes. And this company's got money out the wazoo. You see how much money they make billions in profits, billions. And so now they're going to outsource so they can make another billion more. So $7 million? The CEO of the frickin' company made $172 million. And 7 million changed their mind? What is this about? So 538 had said that they had what 3 reasons why they think Carrier took the deal. 2 of them didn't make sense. One of them was this, the 7 million. The other one was that Trump was going to make things better. I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand this whole. So why would a $7 million incentive make a god? Why would they agree to this? By the way, they're not saving all those jobs. They weren't going to ever send the management jobs anyway, meaning the engineers and whatever. Those jobs were staying. So I don't go ahead.
Well, I mean, that's I think a big problem with corporate construction is the way they're the short-term business model. Every quarter they have to have increased profits. They have to show growth over and over and over. So that's why it leads to them just squeezing every single bit of profit out of the rock that they can get. They try to drain that thing. And when it comes to $7 million, someone's job, it incentivizes bonuses and incentivizes positive job reports for people whose job it is to find every little way you can screw people over and make things more efficient, either spend less money or take in more money. Those are the only 2 ways to increase profit.
There's never like a 10-year plan. Hey, we're going to invest.
Yeah.
We might lose some money for a few years. No one does that anymore because it's all based on quarterly profits. And if your quarterly profits aren't higher than they were last year at this time, that you don't get a bonus.
Yes. And capitalism forces companies into positions where efficiency causes human pain.
Yes.
Because there's a place where efficiency should be imposed, and it's smart. There's a smart way to operate. But we are at a point where the way to save more money is to cause human pain.
Yes.
And that means pollution. That means outsourcing your expenses, downstream expenses like pollution, for instance.
Right.
But also just cutting the pay of your workers, cutting their benefits, making their lives harder. More hours.
If we dispose of this industrial waste responsibly, it'll cost us $10 million. If we just put it in the river and pay the fine, it'll cost us $5 million. So we'll put it in the river and pay the fine. That's how corporations work.
And that's what drives the resistance to the global warming thing, because that would require that they would have to spend a little more money to deal with their output, with their pollution output.
Right, and that's just not how corporations are set up.
Short-term business model is quarterly growth kind of forces are going to destroy the planet forever.
So I agree. I don't understand why what Bernie Sanders says cannot happen. I don't understand why the government just can't say anybody who has a contract with us to make anything has to make it here in America or with union wages and middle class wages or whatever, and that's that. And if you don't, we're not going to. The United States government isn't going to outsource our production of stuff. They shouldn't. That's my theory. I'm not an
economic surgeon.
That's it.
Yeah.
An economist not gonna. So again, so Bernie's has some like things the government can do. I think the big thing it needs to be a union. I know people have talked about global unions before. I think that there's probably that this is the time. For global unions, but you see how they crush unions.
You can have laws.
They kill people.
Right, yeah.
They do kill people.
I hope I'm not speaking out of ignorance here, but I know there's companies in Germany where they're required for the board to be like 40% or something. Japan. Like there's ways of setting up corporate structures where you have people who are in our corporate structures would get screwed, but they get to sit in on the decision-making process. So they still end up being extremely successful, productive companies.
Well, people have talked about, and we should probably do another video on this, but people have talked about how, we believe in freedom and liberty in the United States, and then when people go to work, they go to work for these despots, right? They live in these they work in totalitarian systems, right? There's no input from the workers. There's one guy makes a decision and everybody else has to live with it. Unlike what you're saying in those successful economies where they have the union members right on the board.
Right.
And that seems to who's got a great economy?
Well, there's
Germany.
Japan.
Strong unions. Japan.
There's a rationality to personal greed. Like greed kind of has its own logic in a very confined environment, but on a broader base, like when one company wanting to pay its workers less makes sense. But when no workers get paid any money, nobody's around to buy their products.
That's what FDR understood.
Yeah.
So it's called co-determination when you allow workers to participate in management. And so a lot of people think we need to have a big push for that. We need to change the economic systems. This neoliberal globalization, this race to the bottom to get poorer people in more desperate situations, make your clothes and whatever, manufacture all your products. At some point, there is an end game somewhere, right? They're going to stop. Every time they go to a poor country, they organize, they move to another poor country. So anyway, we need to change the system. And we'll talk more about that.